The first one I say was after, my part was up and I was leaving, and I was not gonna chill. She was in hair and makeup trailer, and I was not gonna tell I was leaving. And she gave me a hug. And I was like, okay. And then we did the song. Everybody would be like, yo, we'll do this with Aaliyah. I'm like, yes, let's get it.
You're just trying to warm a friend up, but it was a little bit too cozy. We had this connection that was just like insane. Like he would feel my energy. And I mean, I had that dog and I really wanted to just let it go, to be honest with you.
And I just feel the stare coming from wifey over there. I just glimpsed it at this and you know what, I'll deal with that later. I mean, come on, girl. And
in my head, I'm like, no, this ain't sitting here on set like he ain't got a damn wife. And when I tell you, I just stood there and I was just looking, and next thing you know, I see him look over at me. And he looked over at me with this look, he always gave me this look like, and I was just like, and he just turned back around. I said, I felt like ripping up the whole set that day.
When DMX named his daughter Aaliyah after the singer's passing, everyone thought it was just a tribute to a fallen friend. But his ex-wife Tashera knew better. She knew that name represented something much deeper, something that had been tearing apart their marriage for years. The question is, what really went down between the Rough Rider and the princess of R&B that made him hold on so tight even after she was gone? We all know about Aaliyah's rumored connections with R. Kelly, the whispers about Jay-Z, and her public relationship with Damon Dash. But there's one name that rarely comes up in those conversations, and that's DMX. For years, it seemed like just another Hollywood friendship, two artists who worked together and had mutual respect. But according to Tashera Simmons, DMX's childhood sweetheart and ex-wife Aaliyah wasn't just another co-star. She was the woman who became a constant presence in their marriage, the one DMX couldn't stop talking about, couldn't stop thinking about, and ultimately couldn't let go of. The story begins in 2000 on the set of Romeo Must Die. Aaliyah was the leading lady, fresh off her success, and cementing her status as more than just a singer, but a legitimate actress. DMX was cast as Silk, bringing his raw intensity to the big screen. It was their first time meeting, and by all accounts, something clicked immediately. They weren't just co-stars going through the motions, there was a genuine connection forming, the kind that people on set couldn't help but notice. They spent hours together working on the track, come back in one piece for the movie's soundtrack, and those studio sessions became more than just work. They talked, they laughed, they shared stories. DMX later described those moments as some of the most comfortable he'd ever felt with someone he'd just met. But comfort wasn't the only thing brewing between them. Here's where things started shifting. DMX was already married at this point. Tashera had been with him since they were kids, through the struggle, through the come-up, through everything. She was his ride or die, the one who stuck around when he had nothing. But something changed when Aaliyah entered the picture. DMX started talking about her constantly, and not in the casual way you'd mention a colleague. His voice would soften when he spoke her name, taking on a tone that Tashera had rarely heard. He called Aaliyah an angel, described her as someone pure and genuine in an industry full of fakeness. He'd go on and on about her humility, her talent, her energy, and Tashera, she was left watching her husband fall under a spell she couldn't break. Then came the moment that made everything undeniable. DMX decided to rent a Rolls-Royce, not for himself and his wife, but for himself, Aaliyah, and her brother, to attend an award show.
How was your relationship with Aaliyah, man?
She was a beautiful person, man.
Yeah,
beautiful
angel,
person,
right? Everybody
down
says
to earth. Made me feel really comfortable. Like I said, I had that same hesitation,
Right.
you know what I'm saying, when I met up with her and did the movie. You know what I'm saying? That was my next movie. I was like, a little nervous, maybe comfortable, you know what I'm saying? We laughed a little bit, like, okay.
Right.
All right, kept in touch a little bit, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And when the wars came up, I already had something crazy.
Right.
You know, like, I was getting like a Benz or a Ferrari or something, you know what I'm saying? I was like, nah, I gotta go get the Rolls Royce for this situation.
Right.
Yo, we going together?
Got this.
Okay. All right. Gotta pull that Rolls out. Make everybody mad. That was the point. That was perfect. Like,
Think about that for a second. Up until that point, the only person DMX had ever taken to award shows was Tashera. She was his wife, his partner, the mother of his children. But for this event, he chose Aaliyah. He made it a whole production too, talking about how he had to get the Rolls-Royce specifically for this situation, how he wanted everyone to see them pull up together, cruising slow so nobody would miss it. He wasn't trying to hide anything. He was putting it out there for the world to see how much he valued Aaliyah's presence. That wasn't just disrespectful to Tashera, that was a public declaration. Now imagine being in Tashera's position. Your husband, the man you've sacrificed everything for, is openly showing more excitement about being seen with another woman than he ever showed about being with you. But she couldn't say much, because technically, DMX and Aaliyah were just working together, just friends. If she complained, she'd look insecure, jealous, unable to handle her husband's success, so she stayed quiet even as the pain ate away at her. But staying quiet got a lot harder after what she witnessed on set. Tashera visited the music video shoot for Comeback in One Piece, and what she saw confirmed every fear she'd been pushing down. DMX and Aaliyah sat together between takes, and he was rubbing her arms, leaning in close, completely absorbed in whatever conversation they were having. They looked comfortable, too comfortable, and here's the part that really stung. They both knew Tashera was standing right there. It wasn't like they were sneaking around trying to hide their connection. They were right there in the open, acting like the chemistry between them was the most natural thing in the world, while his wife watched from the sidelines. Tashera wanted to confront Aaliyah right then and there. Every instinct told her to walk over and make it clear that DMX was her husband, but she held back. She knew how it would look. She'd be painted as the angry wife who couldn't handle her husband having female friends, the insecure woman causing drama on set. So she swallowed her feelings and tried to convince herself that DMX respected their marriage enough to keep things platonic. She wanted to believe that what she was seeing was just a strong friendship, nothing more. But deep down, she knew better. And then the truth she'd been dreading finally surfaced. In her memoir, Tashera revealed what she'd suspected all along. DMX had an affair with Aaliyah, not just a one-time mistake, but a full-blown affair that shattered everything she thought she knew about her marriage. This betrayal hit different from all the others. Tashera had dealt with DMX's infidelity before. She knew he wasn't perfect, knew the lifestyle came with temptations, but Aaliyah, that one broke something inside her that couldn't be fixed. She wrote about how finding out destroyed her in a way she didn't know was possible. It wasn't just about the physical betrayal, it was about the emotional investment DMX had in Aaliyah, the way he'd elevated her above everyone else, including his own wife. Tashera explained that she'd trusted DMX through so much already, had forgiven him for things most women wouldn't tolerate, but this felt like the ultimate disrespect. She said it was a reminder that fame doesn't shield you from heartbreak, it actually amplifies everything. You're dealing with the pain privately, while the whole world watches and speculates publicly. She felt broken beyond recognition, stuck in a marriage where she was constantly competing with a ghost, a memory, an idealized version of a woman her husband couldn't let go of. What makes this even more heartbreaking is what happened after Aaliyah's tragic passing in 2001. You'd think DMX's devotion would fade with time, but it didn't. If anything, it intensified. He spoke about her in interviews with this reverence that went beyond normal grief for a friend. He'd say things like if he could tell her one last thing, it would be thank you for just being herself. When his daughter was born, he named her Aaliyah, calling it his special tribute to the singer. He made it clear that Aaliyah would live on through his family, through his music, through his memories. For Tashera, that had to be torture. Even in death, Aaliyah was more present in her marriage than she'd ever been. People started noticing the pattern in DMX's life. Whenever he talked about real connections, genuine moments, where he felt at peace, Aaliyah's name would come up. He'd describe her as someone who made him feel comfortable when he was nervous, someone who understood him on a spiritual level. He never explicitly confirmed a romantic relationship, always kept it vague enough to maintain deniability. But his actions painted a clear picture. You don't rent a Rolls-Royce for just anybody. You don't name your child after someone who was just a colleague. You don't carry that level of emotion years after someone's gone unless they meant something profound to you. The affair and everything surrounding it became one of the major factors leading to Tashera and DMX's eventual divorce. She'd reached her breaking point, realizing that she'd spent years trying to compete for attention and affection that was never fully hers to begin with. She filed for divorce, finally choosing herself after sacrificing so much for a man who couldn't give her what she deserved. And honestly, people respect her for how she handled everything. She could have gone scorched earth, could have dragged Aaliyah's name through the mud, could have made the whole situation uglier than it needed to be, but she didn't. She kept her dignity, told her truth, and moved on with grace. What's interesting about this whole situation is that Aaliyah never publicly addressed any of it. She was known for keeping her private life extremely private, never confirming or denying relationships unless absolutely necessary. So if something did happen between her and DMX, she took that information to her grave. Some people say that's the classy move, respecting all parties involved by not adding fuel to the fire. Others argue that her silence allowed the situation to hurt Tashera even more, leaving her to deal with the aftermath alone. The thing about Aaliyah is that she had this effect on almost everyone she met. Men would fall over themselves trying to be near her, to protect her, to be special in her eyes. It happened with R. Kelly during a controversial chapter early in her career that raised a lot of eyebrows. It happened with Damon Dash, who was devastated by her passing. And clearly it happened with DMX, a man who was supposed to be committed to someone else but couldn't help himself. There was something magnetic about her, something that made people feel like they'd found someone rare and precious. Looking back at everything, you have to wonder what really went through DMX's mind during those years. Did he genuinely believe he could maintain both relationships without completely destroying his marriage? Was he so caught up in the moment, in the connection he felt with Aaliyah, that he didn't consider the consequences? Or did he simply not care, deciding that whatever he had with Aaliyah was worth the risk? We'll never know for sure, because DMX took those answers with him when he passed in. What we do know is that this situation represents something deeper about relationships, loyalty, and the choices we make. Tashera gave DMX everything. She was there before the fame, before the money, before any of it mattered. She sacrificed her own identity to support his career and raise their family, and despite all of that, she couldn't compete with the idealized version of Aaliyah that existed in DMX's mind. That's a painful reality that a lot of people can relate to, being with someone physically while knowing their heart belongs somewhere else. The story of DMX and Aaliyah isn't just celebrity gossip. It's a reminder that connection and chemistry don't follow rules or respect boundaries. Sometimes people meet at the wrong time under the wrong circumstances, and the fallout affects everyone involved. Tashera had to live with knowing her husband's heart belonged to someone else. DMX had to live with the choices he made and the relationships he damaged. And Aaliyah, whether she intended to or not, became the focal point of a situation that changed multiple lives forever. Makes you think about the relationships in your own life and what really matters when everything's said and done. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss any of the celebrity gossip. Thanks for watching.